So welcome to this session on revising for university exams, brought to you by the Study Advice team here at the university. This short video will cover how to plan effectively for exams by looking at what you should be revising, the importance of making a revision plan, and known effective revision techniques. We'll also take a quick look at memory and how it works, which will help with the revision techniques, and follow this with how you can prepare for the exam day and offer some final tips and further links. So it's worth reminding ourselves as to why we revise and have exams in the first place. So we revise for the purposes of answering exam questions. And this is important to remember because it emphasises the importance of knowing how you're going to be assessed, the format of the exam, and the likely content that you'll be examined on. There are different approaches that you would employ to revise for a multiple choice paper as opposed to an essay-based exam, and it's important to take note of the likely topics that tutors may inform you will be examined. Secondly, it's important to know that university exams are not a test of memory and knowledge, but a test of your understanding, which is usually tested by giving you contexts and asking you to apply your knowledge to that given context. And if this is how you're going to be tested, this is what you need to practice doing in your revision. So most exams this year will be in the form of a 23-hour take-home exam. And while you can have all your notes around you, it's still important to revise, as being able to apply the right theories, concepts and arguments to the given context does require you to understand the content, which requires revision. So starting with the what should you be revising? If you haven't done this already, start by creating yourself a list of all the modules that you have exams for and note down what format these exams will take. If you've been told what topics will be assessed in that exam, note these down. If not, return to your module guides and note down the topics that you've covered and therefore could be assessed. If you have been given access to any past papers or practice questions, have these to hand. If not, you can have a look on the exam's web pages on the past papers section and download all the past papers for that module. The exam may be in a different format to that of previous years, but past papers can still give you a guide as to how the module is assessed, what topics are popular, and the depth of knowledge that is required. You might also want to set an order of priority. For instance, are some modules 100% exam and others a smaller percentage? Do you need to allocate more time to modules where your understanding is not so strong? All this should feed into your plan. If you haven't got one already, now's the time to make a revision plan. You can do this on paper or electronically, but do have it somewhere where you can see it. Start by entering the dates of the exam and any fixed commitments that you may have. Then block out time for revision. You might at this point want to be specific as to what exams you intend to revise in which study blocks, and perhaps even the topics you want to cover if you have a number of weeks to go. Now, we know that anyone can make a plan. The problem we all have is how we stick to it. The secret here is that you need to be realistic, have plenty of gaps for use of contingencies, and work to your study preferences. So when considering how to break down your time, try to allocate revision time to a time in the day you know you study best. Revision takes a lot of self-motivation, perseverance and brain power, so don't allocate this to times when you know you're going to lack that energy. For many of us, our brains are much more alert in the morning, so try getting up earlier, having a regular routine and spending those early hours revising. Think about where you study best too. I realise this is hard right now, but the library is open for those of you that are in Reading and that you find your home distracting. Think also about whether you're someone who likes to focus on one thing for a long period of time, or whether you get bored easily and need to switch between subjects. This should influence your plan. Research suggests we can work most effectively in 25-minute bursts, so try to allocate revision blocks in these short bursts with 5 to 10-minute breaks and longer breaks after 3 study blocks. This is known as a Pomodoro technique, and you can download a timer called Tomato Timer to help you with this. So now you have your study slots in your diary, what should you be doing in these times? Quite simply, you should be practicing active, not passive revision. So if you're just reading through your notes, or probably even worse, writing out your notes from one piece of paper to another, then you're not really learning. You're also likely to get bored and disengaged. Instead, you need to do something with your notes. You recall me saying earlier that exams test your application of knowledge, and you should be using past papers to test that knowledge. Writing essay plans will help. Don't write out whole essays unless you want to practice your time management. Mind maps are a creative way, an engaging way for us to understand topics and see the connections between ideas, which is a key way of acquiring new knowledge. Mixing up your revision with having online revision groups, testing and teaching each other can also work really well. And start with what you already know. We waste a lot of time revising content we already understand, and looking to answer past questions. Try jotting down what you already know first, then go through your notes with a different colour pen, adding in the information that you've missed, and this is the material that you need to focus on. It's also important to revise appropriately for the type of exam that you have. On our study advice web pages, you will find videos on how to revise for multiple choice papers, short answer papers, as well as essay-based questions. Do check these out before you begin. So we can remember some things that we don't understand, but not for very long. It just remains in our short-term memory and will not be of great use to you in exams. So the first step is to go over those concepts, theories, and ideas that were initially unclear to you. To help with memory, you then need to attach this new knowledge to old knowledge. So think about how the ideas fit together. Is there a hierarchy that you can put your notes in? Use visual techniques to aid your memory, like different colours for different levels of information. This is also where mind maps can work well, showing connections, giving examples, and triggering that knowledge and helping with recall. You may have heard of different learning styles, and while the fact that we all have a dominant style is disputed, we know that using different learning techniques will help us learn more effectively. So try mixing up some of these different ways of learning when you're revising. For instance, making colourful mind maps, discussing your learning with friends, and using large sheets of paper or post-it notes and moving them around. And we know a lot of the issue with revision is the need for lots of motivation and self-control. We all procrastinate, but recognising that you're doing this is a start. Think about turning some of those distractions into motivators. So for instance, checking your social media when you've finished a study session. You can also use apps to turn off notifications and try and work when you're most motivated and do your most challenging work at those times. Start today and start with something small and easy to get that sense of achievement. And if you've planned to do some study, do some. Once you get started, it's easier to keep going, even if you don't feel like it. Routine is key, so try and get up early and study at the same time each day. At the end of each study session, write down what you would do next, so you can pick this up more easily when you start again, and this will save you time in the long run. So before the day of the exam, make sure you've tested your equipment. Is your laptop charged? Also, do you have somewhere you can work quietly, and have you told people in your household about your exam? Make sure you know where you can get your exam paper from, what's expected of you, and check the practice area within Blackboard, which explains how to submit papers. For those doing these take-home exams, you will of course have access to your notes. So try to have them organised so that you can access them most easily when you need them. On the day of the exam, you will of course be nervous, and some anxiety is good for our brain, but try to stay calm. If you get a choice of question, read them through a number of times before you make your decision. And once you have chosen, make sure you check the wording of the question carefully. You are still expected to have an effective structure for essay-based questions, so make a plan before you begin writing, which will also help to ensure you keep to the question. And remember that while your exam may be open for 23 hours, you're not expected to spend this amount of time on the paper. Make sure you read carefully the expectations of your exam, how much time they're expecting you to spend on it, the word limit and the criteria. You need to think about taking a good rest and recharge for your future exams. So in summary, when planning your revision, firstly start with a list of all the modules and topics within them that you need to study. Use past papers and tutor guidance to help you with this. Ensure you have a revision plan using short 25-minute slots, making the most of your effective study time in the day. Revise actively, mixing up different learning strategies, making connections between concepts, and practice applying your knowledge to past questions. Make sure you've prepared for the day by checking your equipment, knowing the format of the paper, where you can access it, and how to submit it. And finally, take care of yourself. Eat healthily, take regular exercise, drink plenty of water, and have a routine which allows for restful sleep. All of these things will help to ensure you perform at your best. You can find more information on exams on the Essentials pages. The exams website hosts the past papers, and on Blackboard there's a practice area for take-home exams. On our Study Advice website, you'll find short videos and tips for revising for different types of exams, and also our take-home exams guide. You can find more information on our Study Advice website at reading.ac.uk/studyadvice. You'll also find on there other resources to develop your academic skills and details of how you can book one-to-one sessions with study advisors or attend weekly webinars. So good luck with your exams and your future studies.